Hello to anyone that's joining us. We're starting up just a minute early to welcome everyone. We're going to get started in just about 3 minutes. Welcome to you wherever you may be. Good morning, everyone. If you're just joining us, we're right about ready to get started. We'll probably get started just a minute or so after the top of the hour. Welcome. Hey, everyone. I know it's the top of the hour. We'll give this just another minute. We have quite a few people joining. Want to make sure that everyone has a chance to join and get settled. We'll start in probably just about another minute, minute and a half. All right. Good morning, everyone. Hi, my name is Jim Saprinsky. I'm the AnDOUC user community organizer and TechCast organizer. Welcome to our session today. Our favorite features of Oracle Analytics Cloud, OAC, the March and May releases. We've got an amazing lineup of experienced folks in this region, including Tim Vlamis, director from Huron Consulting Group, Wayne Van Sluys, manager of delivery analytics at Argonaut, Oracle's business unit, Dan Vlamis, Oracle ACE director, and Gautam Pisharam. Thank you, Gautam, our mystery guest from Oracle. Gautam's a Oracle principal product manager for analytics. So, a few things about what we're going to be covering today and in the next several weeks. Today, obviously, we're talking about OAC and all the wonderful features that are available within it. But be aware, come July 24th, we've got a very interesting topic from Craig Schallahammer, who works for Orapub and indirectly Viscosity, North America, on vector searches and learning how to bridge beyond that and getting into something called knowledge graphs in RAG for more effective AI. And that'll be July 24th, same day, Thursday, and same time as today. Also, please be aware, we've got a boatload of technical documents and recordings out here, not just 2025. I recently reviewed these. We've got almost 5.5 years worth of all types of presentations. You can see that by simply going to the link at the bottom of the page here. It's an amazing collection of information that we have. And then finally, it's not just about TechCasts. We have our own website, obviously, AnDOUC.org. We have a Slack channel that's open to anyone. There's the bit.ly link if you need it, and you can talk to our various experts. It might take a few minutes to get to you, depending on their schedules, of course. But be aware you can join our Slack channel. You don't have to be a private member to join. I mentioned we have our previous TechCasts are out on YouTube. I know we'll be dropping that one probably a little bit later today, or certainly by tomorrow morning, hopefully. And we'll have the slides from the presenters ready to go shortly thereafter. We're also out on LinkedIn. Don't hesitate to reach out to us there. We also are part of the Spatial and Graph Special Interest Group. And finally, we're out on Blue Sky as well. I've noticed quite a few Oracle professionals that have joined that link. We are also in the midst, by the way, of planning Summit 2026, but I don't have any specific details to share with you right now. We literally just met on that a few days ago, but stay apprised. We are going to probably be opening the call for papers for that in the very near future. So please keep that on your radar. For now, I'm going to turn this over to Dan Vlamis. Dan's Oracle ACE Director, and has been working with Oracle Analytics Cloud for in perpetuity, probably, right, Dan? And one thing here, I'll be monitoring the Q&A. If we get enough pertinent questions, I might interrupt our speakers, right? But obviously, towards the end of the session, that would probably be the best time for us to answer all that. We'll also have our panelists taking a look at the Q&A, and if I can't answer it, and probably that's not my area of expertise, they probably will be able to answer on our behalf. So Dan, go ahead, take it away.
Okay. So hopefully you're seeing my screen as soon as it refreshes. You'll see my screen of a workbook that I have open in Oracle Analytics. One of the things I want to highlight in here, just so you guys know, we always have new people each time, but where we get a lot of our information is on the Oracle Analytics YouTube channel. And if you go to the Oracle Analytics YouTube subscription and click on then looking at their various playlists, I've got up here what was new in March of 2025. And all these videos, they're short videos that go through each one of the new features. And I pulled a lot of this from the March What's New and May release videos. So that's where a lot of this comes from. But let me dive into some of the favorite features that I found from those two releases. One of the things I wanted to highlight was the ability to use table values as links, table cells. So in this, I have a workbook with a canvas here for table cell values as links. I've made my own copy of this. And now if I play this, this canvas and now click on, notice when I highlight under product category, furniture is a link and I can drill the details on this. So if I click on furniture, it will pop up, display as a pop-up. There's all sorts of data actions. I'll get into this. But what this is doing is popping up something about specifically for furniture. And what we have new in this year's release is the ability to have these as links. Same thing with bookcases. I could have something where in a cell value, I could click on this 3 million and see what's going on with that, all of that type of stuff. So that's what that looks like in the play experience. Now I'm going to go into edit mode. And one of the things I wanted, as I was preparing for this, it became more clear that this has been true in Oracle Analytics for a while, but if you're new to the platform, keeping track of what mode you're in, if you will, becomes important. Are you on the data tab? Are you on the visualize or present? Especially visualize and present because they look so similar. And then whether you're as a viewer or as you're an editor, the experience changes. So that's why I went first and played this as a viewer to look at this. let me show how this is set up. Within this, I have now some data actions. This has been in the product for quite some time. What's new is the ability to get these via cell values. But we have a data action of drill product category when I click the product category. And then there's another one for sales detailed data. And these action links, then notice this is anchored to product category. That's what makes it so when I click on furniture, it does this. And it's going to bring up the detailed sales data canvas and bring that. You can choose whether you want to pass the values and the parameter values. And notice this opens up in a pop-up. That's why it came up as a pop-up, or you can have a new tab or something like that. Similar thing for sales detailed data on how this works. And those data actions, you can have a bunch of them. You click on this plus button. That's been in there for quite some time. That's how this works. Let me show you how this then works in terms of being able to do that as an active value. If I come over here to the edge label and I look at product category, of course, all these can be expanded. And when I look at product category, notice the on action link is set to auto. By default, it's off, or I can say which action I want to take place when somebody clicks on that. And so that's what controls when I click on furniture for it to come and do the drill product category when it pops up. Okay, so that's what's new in here. So you all can imagine you can do other things with these action links, but the ability to add these to your table cells for tables is very helpful. All right, so let me show you another thing that I wanted to show is this interactive tooltips. I've got Canvas set up for demoing that. So if we look at interactive tooltips for here, let me go ahead and run this, and I'll show you what this looks like. Okay, go and run this guy. Now, if I hover over this office supplies and I click on this guy, a new menu comes up, if you're not familiar with this, that allows me to keep this selected, remove that, drill action menu. That's, you'll see that relates to what I was just talking about, the data action menu, or explain is in here as well. Now, one thing to point out in these demos, we like to show you, hey, here's some of the gotchas that you run into. Notice I hover over and it doesn't appear. You have to click it, and you can also control click these things to do multiple, but that's what causes this to appear. If I move the hover, it goes away. You have to pause, and then it comes up. And now I can remove this selected value. So if I come here and click the remove selected, that orange bar goes away. It affects the other presentations of the data, and they go away. And then this adds to the remove selection. That's what's new in here. Now, let me go ahead and undo that so you can see how this transpires when we do this. So we can do this where we set up in here. Let me go back to present mode. All right, and in here, I can control on interactive tooltips on this guy. Notice down in this workbook, down in the personalization, see this visualization menu? This is what controls whether the user is allowed to take that action or not. So if I turn off this keep remove selections, all right, and come back and play this guy again, notice that when I then click on this, that remove selection goes away. So that's how you can prevent the users from doing this. Now, you can imagine there's all sorts of other actions in here that allows you to control the end user experience for this. And so that's one of the things that you can do. Now, there's one other thing I was going to show you. I ran out of time to try and develop the demo path for this, but I wanted to highlight that this is an important other feature in here, is this ability to save personalized filter status. So rather than really to kind of incentivize you to take a look at these videos, because there's so much good information in here. Here is the video on saving personalized filter status. And I'll show you, it's just 2 minutes long, and this will take you through how you save that personalization status, but I think I am running out of time for my segment. So I'm going to turn this over to, I think, Gautam, you're next. So I'll let you go ahead and steal away from this. And I tried to plug your guys' videos so people look all the great stuff you put in here. Okay.
Thanks, Dan. Dan, if you can stop your share.
Yep. I will stop my share and you can take over. Go for it.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me here. I'm going to show you two features from the latest and greatest of Oracle Analytics Cloud. One from the world of geospatial features and one from the world of AI. The feature that we are going to show you from the world of maps is called dynamic lines, which comes in very handy to illustrate movements, connections, and relationships between geographical elements. Uh, this is part of the May release originally, so May 2025 release, but we have also enhanced the feature which is called dynamic lines in the July release. So I'm going to show you what came in the May release as well as what's about to come in the July release as well, which is going to be my first part. And in the second part, I am going to cover the latest and greatest from the world of AI, which is also a very anticipated feature, which is the support for subject areas from AI Assistant. So let me start from the geospatial feature, which is called dynamic lines. Let me start creating a workbook. So it's part of our map visualization. If I navigate myself to the visual library, let me take the map visualization, for example. Currently, when we select a map visualization, for every layer, by default, we have a single category where we can drag and drop latitude and longitude, or it could be geographical place names, or it could be geometry data type. And as part of the latest feature, which we call as dynamic line, the option is available under layer type. And what it does is it gives you the flexibility to also select a target latitude and longitude or a target attribute column with geographical names or a target geometry data type. So then you can illustrate the connection between a start node and a end node. So say for example, to begin with, I'm going to select this latitude and longitude of various home stadiums which are part of the English Premier League. And by default, we can see that we only have one category where we can drag and drop one of these attribute columns. Now, let's say the moment I switch the layer type from auto into dynamic line, we'll have two different categories, one which can represent your start node and one which can represent your end node. So in the start node, I have already selected the various latitude and longitude of the home coordinates or the home stadium coordinates. And let me select the away stadiums as well. And when I drag it into the end node, it will automatically visualize a dynamic line connecting the start node and the end node. So this basically means there is a connection or there is a movement or there is a relationship between the start node and the end node. And there are like various supporting design elements available. Say for example, I can bring in my away stadium into the color. And let's see if I navigate myself to the settings here. We can see the layer type is dynamic line, and this is an important option. It says line shape as straight. By default, when we select a start node and end node, it by default visualize the movement in terms of a straight line. Just in case if we need to visualize it in a curved line, say for example, it will come in very handy for use cases like airline routes or movements between different countries or continents. We can just select this option and change this to a curved option, and then it will automatically change itself into a curved line. Now I can go back to my layer here. I can add one more layer. So I'm going to add a data layer, and I'm just going to select my home latitude and home longitude. I'll keep it here, and then this will get represented as a point. And now let's, for example, I can one more data layer, and I can keep my away stadiums as well, and this will get visualized as well. Now let's say I'll go back to my title. I'll just switch off the legends here. just for visual clarity. The other supporting design elements that we have as part of this feature. So I'm going to the layer type dynamic line here. We have already visualized it in terms of curved. I can also have directional arrows. So the moment I switch on my directional arrow, it's going to give me a clear indication from which direction to which direction the movement is happening, or from which city to a different city the flow is happening. Right now you can see two different directional arrows, which indicates that it's a bidirectional movement. There is a connection happening from let's see, if I zoom into this specific city, it says Liverpool. So from Liverpool to its destination, which is Newcastle, there is one connection happening, and there is also a connection happening from Newcastle back into Liverpool. So I can change my color for a visual representation. So I can just change this here. I can add a halo. Let me just put a red color here, and it will now change the colors of the arrow marks as well as the arrow. And a third variant is available as well, which is what we call as bidirectional curved. So just in case if you want to visualize movements that are bidirectional in nature, or connections that are going back and forth between two geographical coordinates for a start node and an end node, you can now switch it from curved into bidirectional curved. So notice that the moment I switch it from curved into bidirectional curved, now it splits it into two lines. So originally we were only seeing one line between Liverpool and Newcastle, but now when we switched it to bidirectional curved, we have like two different lines available here, which will clearly indicate there is a movement happening from one city to another, and there is also a movement happening from the same city into the source as well. Now you can have your data label positions. So say for example, I go back here, I can put my away stadium into my tooltip. I can put my home stadium into my tooltip. I can go back to my properties. I can enable the data label positions. And let's say I can also select my specific column. So I'll switch off my latitude and longitude and only select the home stadium as well as away stadium. And then you can see that it will clearly label from which city to which city the flow is happening. So you can enable this data label positions as well. So in this specific example, we are only showing how you can draw the line between a home, between a latitude and longitude for your start node and end node. That's not just the limit. So if I show you this specific example, uh, here I'm taking the geographical coordinates from the US. The first visual shows the same similar example wherein I have selected the latitude and longitude for my start node and end node. But if you switch to this specific example, I'm just taking an attribute column with geographical place name. So if you have different columns with geographical place names, when we go here, we can identify that it has been associated with one of the default system layer, and then it tries to identify the connection. And if I switch to the third layer, you can see that it's now between a geometry data type. So it accepts latitude and longitude as input. It accepts attribute columns with geographical place names as inputs, as well as it accepts geometry data type as inputs as well between the start node and end node. And once you have this, just switch your layer type to dynamic line, and you'll be able to drag and drop these elements, and then you'll be also be able to enhance the visual elements by the different options we have. So that's the first feature we wanted to show. Now, just to be clear, what's available as part of the May release is only the straight lines, and what's going to be released as part of the July 2025 release is curved and bidirectional, as well as the directional arrows, and the support for attribute names as well as geometry data type. So by July, you will be having all these functionalities available within the dynamic line. Now I'll switch to the second use case, which is from the world of AI. It's also a very anticipated feature, which is the support for subject areas within the AI assistant. So till now, and this is part of the March 2025 release. So generally, the assistant was only available for the direct connections and spreadsheets. Starting March 2025, we also support subject areas within the assistant, and it's only within the assistant. It's not part of the insights. So say for example, I'll go to this specific workbook. Let me navigate myself to the system console. There is a step that you need to be aware of before enabling the subject areas for indexing. And we need to navigate ourselves into the console here. And if I scroll down, we have an option called as search index. And this is an area which will enable you to have the assistant enabled for the various subject areas. So you can select your different languages. You can select the frequency level in which you need to index the subject areas. And now if you look at the bottom side, we also have the assistant option here. And this will let you enable AI assistant for as many subject areas. And say for example, if you want to enable it only specifically for some of the metrics and some of the dimensions, we can do that as well. And I can drill into the revenue. So whichever column you want to select for indexing, you can just enable these checkbox and that will get indexed. You can either index the metadata or you can index the entire content. You can also give, let's say, synonyms as well. So say, for example, I have a numerical terminology for the number of products. I can say number of products here, which will be accepted as a synonym, and you can give up to 50 synonyms for a very specific column. And once you enable the subject areas and once you enable all the different properties that are available for indexing the subject areas, you just hit on the save button and it starts indexing in the background. And once you index it from console search index, we can now go back into the home area. I can click on the create button. I can click on the workbook. So I'll just wait for a few seconds so that my subject area starts appearing. I can click on one of this and I can click on this assistant. So the auto insights, I click here, I go to my assistant and now I can say like, what is my total revenue? So now this is getting executed against the subject area. And it's the same step that I have already followed here. So you type it in and it starts getting the results. So what are my top performing products for the year 2020? I can click on the enter button. Now it is doing the assistant thing within the subject area, and it's trying to come up with the results. And all the results that we like, we can just click on the plus button, and that gets added to the canvas. And in the interest of time, so now I'm going to switch back to the canvas where I've already created all these. So I've typed in what is my total revenue, what are my top performing products for the year, what are the number of units sold by line of business. So basically every dimension that are available as part of the subject area, every metric that is part of the subject area, I have enabled indexing for it through the search index. And because of that, I can now have the assistant up and running for subject area, and I can basically type in any natural language query. And once I'm happy, I can just click on the plus button that will get added into the canvas. With that, I have covered both the new features, one for the spatial world that goes by the name dynamic lines, and one from the world of AI, which is one of the anticipated features, which is the support for subject areas from AI assistant. And now I'll switch it over to Wayne. That's correct, right?
Yes, thank you. Right, share. We pull this into here. And you're all seeing my screen? Oh, okay. So I'm covering selection steps, and selection steps are related mostly, well, it's tied to either an S-based cube or an EPM planning or financial consolidation close cube. So the part when working with hierarchies, the difficulty is trying to zoom in and set a filter to one of them, right? Because the hierarchies work different than columns in a relational table. And when we work with hierarchies, we're dealing with keep onlys or keep and add and remove. So here's the account hierarchy in my planning cube. And when I bring it out, I don't want to bring out when the word of EPM, the data does not roll up because each part of this hierarchy are different structures. So if I bring it out, I will not get data because account doesn't have any data. What I want to do is when I bring it out, I want to look at maybe my financial accounts and primarily maybe just revenue and expense. So the selection steps allow me to do that by using the new feature. So when you bring it to the filter, you can now work with these keep only, and then you have what are you looking at? The children, include the children, myself, and then the children. So if I say the plus children of revenue planning, we see those pieces. So if we come back over here, we can see revenue planning, the revenue drivers, right? And we can then look at, I can zoom in on this, right? But the next pieces are, how do I just create a structure over here that I only want to see? And sometimes I want, let's say the descendants of revenue planning. And then add, say, the descendants of expense planning. But then I don't want to be looking at, say, the drivers, because drivers are accountants and the other ones are dollars. So I can turn in and say remove members. And if I remove a member, it removes all of its children. You can see things start to remove, right? So this is a way to work with multidimensional data to zero in on what you want to show up in your point of view and your report, especially when working with hierarchies. So if we come back and let's zoom out, I want to go just the leaves of revenue planning. Well, we got an error there. That doesn't like that. Okay. And I'm buggering this up. All right. So it's a neat way to get into multidimensional data and be able to see what's on in terms of a certain part of the hierarchy. Selection steps does it. The hard part of working with multidimensional data is if you start working with these member names on the side here, you will end up really screwing up and trying to get down to a certain point of that hierarchy. So if I went to this one and try to get to, it gives me the hierarchy, but the minute I set a filter, it's going to mess up and ends up with and it doesn't get you there. So selection steps are the way to work with EPM data. They work with either a direct connection or with the EPM subject area through the semantic layer. And with that, I am done sharing my screen. Take a look at the selection steps in the videos, and they'll tell you some more. Up next, Mr. Tim Vlamis.
Thanks, Wayne. Hey, everyone. I'm actually going to do something a little different today. I'm going to show you a new feature, but we're going to talk about some alternatives to it as well. And so one of the new visualizations for the new release is a gauge visualization. And we've had gauges for a very long time in the classic interface. And gauges, quite honestly, in terms of the literature, in terms of how we accurately represent data, have advantages and some pretty strong disadvantages. So the disadvantage in the gauge is traditionally where you might have a bar coming out is that it's an angled line and the eye doesn't read angled lines well. And so these new type of gauges, let me show you what this is. This is the gauge type. It's over here in the visualizations. And down here we have gauge right here. So this is new. And, gauges have become popular because they're on dashboards and people think that dashboards should have gauges. This gauge visualization in particular, if you notice, you have your trellis rows and then your values. So if you want to show more than one, you use a trellis. So we can either do this as rows or as columns, in which case we'll get going across. In our example, the value for revenue is 8,463,000 here. So that is represented by this dark green, okay? And then we have, three different values that we're looking at, really. We're looking at this specific value for the gauge. We're looking at a target value, which is represented here as a target, which is our forecast. And then we have the starting value and the ending value of the gauge. Right now, you can see these are blank. These are actually set over here with, we can change this to auto and it's going to be the same. It's basically using min value, max value. You're starting at 0 and ending at the max value. But if we customize that, then we can change that. It's set to 15 million right now. So this is showing you, this one is maybe a little clearer, showing you 7,300,000 as it relates to 15 million. And it's showing you are, roughly this far on your way to 12,353,000. So this is typically used for single measures. We have a couple different styles of gauges. We have the dial gauge, and then we have a bar gauge. Now the bar gauge layout gives us, this is our green value over here at our $8 million with our target of 4.8 million. I don't know that there's a way to put this within the bar. We can change the thickness of the bar. We can come here and make it, 60 and make them really thick. Ideally, we'd like to reflect, and be clear that this is the value. And then we can add our labels on the end, but this is a bit of a problematic visualization, in my opinion. I don't know that most viewers, casual viewers, are going to take the time to fully understand what's going on with this. So honestly, I will recommend that you kind of do something traditional, which is show the two values in a grouped bar graph. Here's our revenue where we are, here's our forecast, and then also show a difference, or a percentage. The percentage of the forecast is 57.2%. So now, we can see, roughly where we are. One of the other new features that we have is a range. So now we can, add in a range from, 50% to 60% and makes it clear maybe what's going on in terms of, here's our target value, if you will. So you can't set that target value independently on this. So that's kind of the trade-off. With the gauges, you can set independent targets for these different values. It'll read it directly out of the data set. One of the other features of these new graph bands here, let me show you this, is the ability to do, on an attribute. So before, we could always add, here's our average line, for the values. This gives us the ability, if we're looking at sales or revenue across a period of time, we can see that it's highly varied. It goes up and down by month over several years. And what we really want to see is the winter months. When, the winter months we're defining here as occurring between November and March. And so what we've done is we've done November to March on this. We could set a parameter, call it winter, define it by the calendar month number. I've just manually created these different bars here along with our average line. But this gives us a pretty good insight in terms of being able to read, when is winter, when are our sales above the average sales for the entire time period, and having the ability to add context to graphs, I think, is pretty huge. I'll be using this a lot in our dashboards. One of the other things that you may want to think about as you do this is, if we think about how are we representing, sales over time. Here, what I've done is I've just added calendar month number as the color, so that we can see pretty quickly, oh, this is February. And then, through the brushing, I can see the different Februaries pop out, or I can see January. These graphs, it's always a trade-off with graphs. The more you add to them, the more complex they get, the more insights they have. The real, secret is trying to think, what can I add that's going to help somebody read it quickly and get the insight quickly? If you're not specifically worried about specific months, maybe the other, this is fine. This gives us a trend. This gives us the understanding of when it's up and it's down. This other gives us a specific reading on months, how big are they relative to the other months, and how can I pick out specific months so I can see, wow, in 2014, June had very high revenue, whereas if we go over to 2015, we can see that it's low. If I just look at the line graph, I may not get that insight immediately for June to June. Okay. And so, again, these ranges, pulling out when winter is, helps break apart the calendar. It helps us see what's going on. I would also say that as, different features are added to, this list of visualizations, we get more and more ability to create insights. The key is just thinking about, what do we want to say? What do we want to show? And thinking clearly about that, and not just grabbing things and throwing it on a canvas and expecting people to understand. So that's a little bit why, for these gauge graphs, I would encourage people to, think about their use case when the idea, the concept of a gauge is important, and you need to add, a lot of information regarding values and where they are relative to those values. You know, you can think about a gauge. I think there are other visualizations, quite honestly, that may actually, you know, prove to be more useful in terms of understanding the data. With that, I will see what questions we have and if we can address them.
Wow. Thanks, Tim. I'm blown away by the sophistication of some of the things you can do here. But we do have one question specific that I think Wayne can answer for us. There was a question about what the reason was that OFS revenue planning and OFS revenue drivers were displayed at the same level inside what Wayne was demoing. So I don't know, Wayne, if you've had a chance to take a look at that yet. Maybe you could take a look at it in the Q&A and answer that if you're still with us.
Yeah, I just shut down that planning instance and the OAC instance. Otherwise, I'd be able to bring it back up and look.
Ouch. Okay.
It may be just the way it kept the parent, because I said and the descendants. Yeah, I'd have to go back and look. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, one of my questions is is this the same as, you know, it selection steps in the classic interface where it actually applies the logic after the query is executed?
Yes.
Okay, so filters impact the results, not the selection steps. It's just a display of the results. Is that right?
Yeah, correct. And quite frankly, I couldn't get to an intersection on this cube because I didn't have a planning person to tell me where the data was. Otherwise, I think it would have shown better. But because it was purely just the members going down the side, that's the way it showed it up. But if I had data in there, then it would have set up like a hierarchy better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, that was a great question from our attendee. I got to admit, for somebody that plays around a lot with graphs and, or I should say, mapping, the stuff that Gautam showed us was really interesting. And there was a question there earlier what the technology was underneath it, and it's quite interesting that Map Libre is now sort of like the de facto standard for all mapping. And by the way, there is a feature totally aside from OAC in 23AI called vector tiling. It is not the same thing as vector data type things that really does some amazing stuff. Again, it's just amazing what Oracle's starting to do with the technology, especially from a mapping perspective. So I'm just blown away by how cool that was.
Yeah.
We don't have. Tim, go ahead.
Can I just make a plug for maps right now? I would say putting maps on dashboards drives user engagement better than just about any other visualization. And we find that when we put maps on, people like it a lot. They like going into it and seeing the data. And so if you have any kind of location information at all, any kind of location data, putting a map on your dashboards will increase user engagement and usability and everything. And it's pretty powerful.
Yeah. It's really interesting underneath the covers what's probably being done.
Yeah.
The technology is fascinating. And like you say, mapping is everybody wants to see where everything is, right? Where's the closest end thing. So it's really encouraging to see that. So wow, you guys covered a lot of ground today. We have no other questions at this minute. So I don't have any raised hands. There's nothing in the chat. I think we could wrap up real quickly. Let me just grab our slides here for a moment. And just to close up real quickly, and let everybody get on with their day. I did paste the links, the bit.ly links here for the March and May 2025 features into the chat as well, so you might already have them. Be aware, by the way, our TechCast series has an enormous amount of information out there, not just the TechCasts themselves. Be aware that we do have quite a bit of stuff out there in addition to these particular links that we've got here. Now, again, these links go more specifically to the Oracle, if you will, single source of truth inside the documentation. So that's why we always include this slide, because there's some really handy stuff out there and quite a bit of YouTube videos as well. Frankly, I do everything by YouTube these days. I'm actually remodeling something in my house right now, and thank goodness that people do YouTube videos. Anyway, just to remind you, we do have archives, 5.5 years worth of videos, and in many cases, also the slide decks, which again, I find extremely valuable. And just one final reminder, we do have a presentation coming up on July 24th. Again, it's going to be about using RAG in concert with knowledge graphs for smarter AI. I'm really looking forward to having Craig present this. But for now, we'll give you back an extra 10 minutes to your day.
Real
Yes,
quick. So
absolutely.
We've been Oracle aces and Oracle people doing these, our favorite features. I would love to have somebody outside of the normal lineup. If you're interested in, there's a new feature in July that you'd like to demo and present to the group, TechCast, I think I would be willing to step aside to have someone do that.
Yes, absolutely. And Wayne and Tim and Gautam, yeah, that's an excellent point. And by the way, we do, if you go to that TechCast page, there is a button, I think about a third of the way down the page, right, Wayne? I think that says submit your session. A lot of times we go to other conferences. For example, Kscope was just last week. And when we see one we really like, we'll call folks and go, hey, would you like to present? Or, about anything OAC related. And by the way, we don't present just on that as well. We talk about anything spatial and graph. We're really diving much more into the AI space these days, wherever that's going. So be prepared to see more of that stuff coming along too. But, this is a great way, especially if you're a speaker and you want to try your story out. This is a great way to do it. It's a low impact workout, if you will. And we love to have other folks come and present their insights on anything related to analytics, OAC, business intelligence, AI, machine learning, and of course, spatial and graph. So I believe we're all set. We're going to go ahead and call it a day. Thank you for everyone for attending, and we hope to see you on July 24th. Have a great day, everyone.